I was in third grade. In fact, when I was in third grade, I remember I think I was 11 or 12. I'll never forget the teacher was working with me and she was getting, some stuff put together and was getting ready to leave. And she goes, okay, she goes, just go back to your desk. You can, read a book or, have some free time, whatever, you want to do. I'm going to get everything together and I'm heading to your meeting. And I remember her saying, my meeting. And she goes, yeah, you have your IEP meeting and your mother, is going to become, your mother's going to come down for your meeting. Did she tell you about that this morning? And I said, well, she did mention she was coming to the school, but you said it was for a meeting. And she goes, yeah. And so I said, well, who's going to be at this meeting? And she said, oh, it's going to be me. And there's going to be the school counselor, the school social worker. And my exact words to her were, well, why am I not invited? And she kind of looked at me like, oh. And I said, can I go to this meeting? And she kind of, she goes, do you want to go to your meeting? I said, absolutely. I said, if you guys are going to be talking about me, I said, I should be there. And I'll never forget walking into that room with my principal, the social worker, and the psychologist, all these people. And they were like, why is Taylor here? And I sat down at the table and I remember I sat there and I looked at them. I said, can I have a copy of and I had to think about it. And they said, your IEP? I said, yes. And so they handed me this copy of my IEP. I had no clue what it was, had no clue, had no, inkling to be like, looking through this information and whatnot. But I remember being included in the conversation. And for me, it was at that age that I realized what being an advocate for myself actually meant. And so one of the things that I tell teachers, and I've really pushed, even at like a middle school age or younger, I still tell them, I'm going to your meeting and I say, I strongly suggest that people give them the option, even if they are probably would be, not completely involved with it, but for them just to be there and to have that sense of inclusion. Because as an autistic advocate, I've always said my most powerful statement has been nothing about us without us. I am a strong proponent that anything that should be decided about the autistic community should come from other autistic individuals. And I'm a strong, strong advocate in the idea that if we're going to talk about those kinds of accommodations and those kinds of interventions, we need to be a part of that conversation, whether it's being present so that, there is at least maybe even a inkling of discretion because that person's in the room, or if they're an active member and being active in the conversation, there needs to be a presence. And so I've always strongly pushed for that because I think it's important for any autistic individual that goes through the IEP process in special education should be as active in their education and their accommodations as possible.